for T-41, Introduction to Security. Main objectives for this is going to be, hopefully, to explain why security is an important element of an IT professional role. Describe the most common types of threats and vulnerabilities besides Diego or the one-eyed Jordan. Identify different types of malware and social engineering. It is essential, guys, to apply the best practices in order to fully secure your workstations and a wireless or wired network for any of the users that you may be dealing with. Our two goals should be to protect the resources and to not interfere with the actual functions of the system, because sometimes we can lock it down so much that basically we have completely locked it down. Security threats comes from all forms besides myself or a person. You have the armored viruses, you have companion viruses, you have macrovirus, retrovirus, polymorphic, phage viruses, stealth viruses, residential viruses, overwrit viruses, worms, spyware, rootkits, ransomware, cryptoware. I can go on. Phishing, spoofing, vishing. No, vishing is voice, never mind. And you have your shoulder surfing, which a lot of people love. Information security is the collection of technology standards and management practices that are applied to the information to be secured. It's vital to be worried about your IT information because of the value it brings to the business. To fully understand the IT security, it is important one needs to understand both the value of the actual information and the consequences it will bring for it to be compromised. So I stated a moment ago, the best way to protect information is to know where they're coming from. You have malware. Malware encompasses everybody pretty much, right? Social engineering, password attacks, zombie botnets. Anybody remember what a zombie botnet is?
Yes. Basically, you're in the mercy of somebody who has malware on your computer and uses it to do whatever resource it wants to do. Usually the OS attacks.
Yeah, basically zombies are botnets. Zombie is one. As for a botnet, it will be a collection of computers who are oblivious that this software is installed. So he has a backdoor to your PC at that point. He stays quiet, so your PC won't even act like if it has any type of malware in it. It'll just act normal until the moment that he decides to use his botnet to attack as a one force. So when he has a collection of computers ready to go, then he'll turn on, and obviously is not to attack you, it's actually to attack someone else. That for especially sites, if you have malicious requests from one user, usually those sites are able to block that one user. But when a multitude of users all of a sudden come in and start attacking it by requesting any little thing, just as Google, if you have a million users just hitting it hard, it will bring it down with a denial of service. You have man in the middle. As as simple as man in the middle is. Give me a second, please. Sorry. Sorry about that. What was I here? Okay, man in the middle. That basically is what it is. It's a man in the middle. Anybody ever seen what a man in the middle attack is? Here's your PC. Here's the guy you're trying to get to. Basically, in somewhere in the middle, this guy will grab and pretend that he is both PCs, both PC1 and PC2. Vice versa, obviously. When your PC1 wants to talk to PC2, he will be in the middle of a conversation. He will intercept it, put whatever malicious code he wants, and sends it out as PC1 to PC2. When he gets that, since he has the MAC address or IP of this PC supposedly one, he sends it back to this guy, who then does whatever he wants with the information and attaches his code and sends it to PC1. That is basically a man in the middle attack. As for your 0-day attack, anyone know what that is? 0-day attack is a attack basically with an unknown vulnerability or even a known vulnerability which has not been patched. Hence the day 0-day. It's the day that it actually came out, the virus and or malware. Violations of security best practices is usually one of the major issues that we have with these users. It's for malware. It's short for malicious software. Any software used to disrupt the actual computer's operation, be a virus, a worm, spyware, Trojans, rootkits, and ransomware. All of these fall into what they call malware. No longer do you see that there is antiviruses out there. They're usually called anti-malware. Questions or doubts? I see you, Jordan. I see you. As for your system symptoms, um, programs obviously load slowly. Programs on a system start to load very slowly. This is obviously because the virus is spreading on other systems and is taking over the system and using all the resources within the computer. As for the files that appear and disappear, usually that is because the actual software or malicious software is attacking the system and deleting it. That was one of the things that we saw in one of the quizzes that we had where a malicious system files were missing. That's due to the fact that that actual malware is attacking the actual OS and deleting anything that it can in its wake. As for changing program sizes, that happens a lot because they actually add to the actual code and it's hidden within the actual program or the file. Unusual operating characteristics is usually when the browser, word processing application, or other software begins to use unusual characteristics. Screen menus change, it starts flickering, doing things that it shouldn't be doing. As for mysterious shutdown or startups, those are the most annoying in itself because you don't know, and then you may actually believe that it is maybe that it's overheating or something else, when in fact it is the actual malware that's causing the computer to shut down. As for reboot or startup errors, this just suddenly doesn't reboot and gives an unexpected error during the startup, usually because of the fact that it did over here and made some system files disappear. So when it rebooted, it actually no longer useful system. Lost access to system. This happens obviously in a lot of places where they actually lock you out of your own system and seriously you lose access to your actual drive and others resources. The viruses has changed the settings within it and makes it completely unstable. Your viruses. This is the most well known because that was the original name. As we know, a virus in a human is basically something that is spreading within a human. In this case, the spreading to other systems. A virus, in most cases, tries to do one or two to render it completely useless, or it's going to spread on to other systems. Many viruses will spread to other systems if they're given a chance, especially if there is a trust within the network, within these various computers. It'll with ease, especially if you have admin rights to these and it's your computer, it will get into everybody else's computer. Most viruses today are either online by download and installation of the user. On top of that, there's plenty of emails out there which ask you to go and click something and they actually go and it's clickbait to actually install something else. So be careful with these users who tend to even open up an actual email, and the email, just by opening it, will install the malicious software. These are obviously the various ones. We have the armored virus, companion virus, macro virus, retrovirus, because he likes to play music. No, I'm just making that up. Don't remember that one. Polymorphic virus, phage virus, stealth, and obviously the other multi-party and overwritten residential viruses. As for your armored virus is that he has an armor and he looks like Pablo and he looks like a knight. Basically, it's very difficult to detect and or analyze. The armored viruses cover themselves with protective code which stop the actual antiviruses or anti-malwares actually doing anything to them. The virus may be written in such a way that sometimes the actual programming acts as a decoy to distract the analysis while the actual code is hidden in other areas of the program. So he'll act like if his virus is in this side. So when the actual anti-malware or antivirus goes and looks at that side and thinks he has cleaned the virus, and in fact he is somewhere else. The key to stopping most of these viruses is to identify them quickly, educate the users and administrators about them. The very things about the armor intensifies and difficult of accomplishing it itself. As for companion viruses, attach itself to legitimate programs, and then it creates a program with a different file name extension. This file may reside in your system's temporary directory. When a user types the name of the legitimate program, the companion virus executes the other one instead. Literally, what happens is it makes sure that no matter what, when you try to open up that one, it actually opens up itself. As for macro viruses, this exploits the enhancements made to many applications. For example, Microsoft Office is a mini basic programming language that also allows you to manipulate it with macros. So within the actual Windows, I don't know if you know that, but inside your Access, Word, Excel, the whole suite has now capability of macros. Macros is to be able to facilitate and make things easier for users. You can make it completely create a report, send out emails, do whatever you want with it, which is an ease for the user. At the same time, for the people that like to write stuff, when you go and somebody sends an email to somebody and they send a document, it will have a payload within the macro. So as soon as they try to open that file, the macro runs in the back end, and then unfortunately they will get the virus. Any questions or doubts on the macro virus?
I have a question about the companion virus, though.
Companion virus?
The companion virus is very similar to a Trojan,
Mm-mm. No, it's not.
no?
A Trojan is just a Trojan, and you'll see what a Trojan is. Trojan is just a software who basically acts like he is somebody, but he's not.
Isn't that
He
the same thing the
won't.
companion virus is doing?
No, no, no. He will then, let's say you want to open up Word, and just as an example, every time you click Word, it's going to open up the virus version of the worm, of the virus, of Word. So it'll look like Word, but it's the virus. Lack of a better explanation. As for a Trojan, he only acts like if he's, let's say, an anti-malware software, right? And it will install itself, but does no damage to your computer. He just pretends he's somebody else. The payload and or anything else that comes with it is extra. It's something else. It could be that it is a spyware. It could be that it's a worm. It could be it's a rootkit. It could be ransomware. But the Trojan in itself is just that. It's just a Trojan horse coming in. The payload are the people that are inside the Trojan horse. That makes sense? So the Trojan horse is himself coming in. As for the payload, that's the actual people that was inside the Trojan horse. That can be a rootkit. It could be ransomware. It could be a phage virus or resident virus. It can be any other virus, but does not do damage to your computer. It's the key thing about a Trojan. That's why you never notice it. That help you out?
A little bit. You're referring to the payload. So the Trojan's method of infection is hiding, similar to the companion virus. The difference is how they do it.
A Trojan horse. We'll get to the Trojan one so you can see it in a minute, and it'll have details. A Trojan horse doesn't do damage. It just pretends he's someone else when you're going to install it. That's all it does. Just acts like if he's somebody else so you can install it. And that's it. This one, at all times, when you try to run the other program, it runs itself. It's hidden somewhere else and it runs itself. So when you open Word, it runs the virus. Retrovirus. Did I do this one? No. Attacks or bypasses the antivirus software that is installed. Retrovirus can directly attack the actual antivirus or anti-malware software. It completely just kills the database and or even makes it completely useless. Destroying the information with knowledge would leave you with a false sense of security. The virus may also attack an antivirus program and create bypasses for itself. So every time, even if you reinstall or try to fix the actual antivirus program, it will bypass from the antivirus and not be noticeable. Polymorphic virus. This guy is cute. He changes himself in form. You can always think about him as being the chameleon of all viruses. This virus will attempt to hide from the antivirus. Frequently, the virus will encrypt parts of itself to avoid detection. That way, if it's encrypted, there's no way it can read it. Doesn't have a key. When the virus does this, is referred to an actual mutation of the virus itself. The mutation process makes it hard for the antivirus to detect the common characteristics of this given virus. A phage virus. It alters other programs and actual databases. This virus infects all these types of files. The only way to remove the virus is to reinstall the program that has been infected. If you're if you even miss one single, this is the worst part about it, if you happen to miss one of it on the actual victim, it will restart the process. So as soon as you thought you got rid of the, he just comes and pulls you right back in. As for your stealth virus, this is one that attempts to avoid detecting itself. Sorry, it avoids to be detected by masking itself from other applications. It may attach itself to the actual boot sector of the hard drive. When a system utility or program runs, the stealth virus redirects commands around itself in order to avoid direction. This one actually mutates itself or hides itself by actually creating an encryption or this guy actually is just like a stealth bomber. You cannot see it, or as you can see in Halo, when the guy is kind of invisible and you can see through him, that's what the stealth virus does.
Is the stealth virus attempting something similar to a rootkit, where it's trying to hide in lower level system?
A rootkit gives you full control. Stealth virus does not, but it does sometimes hide itself in the boot sector of the hard drive. It's not always. The main thing here is that he's basically trying to just redirect. So if it sees that you're about to come and get it, he'll just put on his cloak to hide himself and make himself invisible to avoid detection. A rootkit takes full control of the computer when it attaches itself to the root. Gives you admin rights. Have your resident virus. This all of these, as you can see, sound very, very familiar to each other. So it gets a little bit hard here. It hides and stores itself in this time the computer memory, which obviously then allows it to infect any file that is run. The moment you open up a file, this guy is the best of the best. He is inside the memory, and since he's inside the memory, the CPU is going to throw all commands to who? To the memory. Therefore, the moment it gets in there, it will then infect anything that comes through. No ifs, ands, or buts. As long as it goes through that memory, which is basically any time that you open anything, it will attach itself to that. Overwriting virus effectively destroys the original program code, typically by overwriting the data in the system's memory. It's not residing in there, but it just overwrites it. Typically, users need to remove the offending virus and then reinstall the actual original programs, which can obviously be very, very difficult because the original programs are backed up or kept in duplicate copies offline, depending. Multi-party virus. This is the guy that likes to party. He attacks the system in multiple ways. He infects the boot sectors, all executable files, and he will destroy application files too. big party with your computer. Or defenses. See, here now we're going into out of the virus world. And that's why I kept on saying that no, a Trojan is not the same as what we heard earlier. A Trojan is a malware, it's not a virus. A worm is not a virus, it is malware. All right? It can reproduce itself. It can, as for self-contained, it does not need a host application to be transported. However, it is possible that worm can be contained and delivered in a virus to a target system. It's not unnecessary, but basically a worm, that's all he does. He just digs around throughout the whole network and usually goes and spreads itself over TCP/IP on internet services, email, on social media sites and websites all over the place. He can reside. That is a very worm. That's all he does. Once again, as for the payload or anything else that is contained, that is not a worm. That is just extra code on top of the worm. His job is to spread himself from target to target to target to target using the TCP/IP protocols. Any questions or doubts? All right, next one. Spyware monitors the activity and responds by offering unsolicited pop-ups, pop-unders, advertisements known as adware. It actually gathers information the users pass to the marketers and intercepts personal data such as credit card numbers, depending on if it has keylog or whatever it has. Spyware works on behalf, obviously, of a third party itself rather than self-replicating like viruses or worms. Spyware is spread to machines by users who inadvertently ask for it. I want this. Go ahead and download, install. That is one of the reasons a lot of people get these things is because of the fact that they go online and start visiting infected sites and doing other things that they shouldn't be doing. Here's our friend Trojan. He basically creates a backdoor and replaces a valid program during the installation itself. It then accomplishes missions under the guide of another program. Trojan horses can be used to compromise the security of a system, and they exist on the system for years before they can even be detected. As I said, all he did is just come in because you let him. As for the payload and anything else that's on there, it is an attachment to itself. Enters, it may include as an attachment or as part of an installation program. Trojans, the best way to prevent them, obviously, is not allow the entry. A port scan may reveal that a Trojan horse is on the system, but not always, because obviously it will be listening to see when he needs to do anything else. He already is inside, so he's waiting for that attack so he can turn on the payload. Questions or doubts?
I think I get what you mean. So basically, Trojan is doing anything it can to stay undetected, and it's not breaking anything. While the I think it's called a
Companion
companion
virus
virus
is,
is
yeah, he
actually doing some destruction.
exactly. He is attacking. The companion virus is attacking. Every time you open that given application, he starts attacking because he has replaced that application with himself. Versus here, usually he's just in the opening maybe a back door or waiting. That's why they say a port scan will allow you to see that, because if you do a port scan on the PC and you reveal that that port shouldn't be open on that PC, then obviously it must have some sort of Trojan waiting for to attack. Rootkits, a software program that has the ability to hide in certain things from the operating system. There are a number of processes running in a system that don't show up in the actual task manager. Connections can be may be established, available, don't even appear, even in NetStat. The rootkit masks itself the presence of these items. The rootkit does this by manipulating the function calls to the operating system and filtering out information that would normally appear. Preventing them, unfortunately, many rootkits are written to get around antiviruses, anti-spyware programs, and if they're obviously not kept up to date. A lot of the zero-day attacks happen with these rootkits because obviously people do not update on time. How many times should I weekly be updating my anti-malware and spyware, or sorry, virus? How many times a week should I update my
Seven
anti-malware
times
and
daily.
daily, right? That is correct. So what is ransomware? Ransomware is very close to cryptoware. The variance is that cryptoware actually encrypts your actual drive. It's not exactly the same. Ransomware sometimes is not encrypting your drive. All right. So ransomware is a type of malware that usually encrypts the entire system or drive in encryption key so that the only one that can actually open it is the actual hacker, or he gives it to you. Once hackers encrypt the machine, they only hold the data residing on the device hostage until the person pays. That's why, hence, ransomware is a cryptoware that's asking for money. The latest example arrives an attachment that appears to be a resume. However, when the attachment is open, the malware is used to uses software called CryptoWall to encrypt the actual device. What usually follows is demand for money. And I think you guys might have also saw one where it was like an FBI little banner or something like that came out saying that you did something naughty and we're not going to give
I
you your
got that
computer.
one.
Actually, that one was easy to
Yeah, that's easy
get
to get
rid
rid
of.
of. A lot of people got that one wasn't encrypting your actual hard drive, so that one was easier. You could actually go back in time, or if you know how to go in safe mode, you could actually remove it. As for the next one, social engineering is a process in which the attacker attempts to acquire the information about the network and the system and social means, such as by talking by a phone, even by even visiting the actual sites. He starts preparing himself so that when he's going to talk to somebody or when he's going to do something or visit the site, he is fully aware of maybe who the CEO is or who is in this facility because he has done his actual homework, or she. The intent is to acquire the information such as the user's IDs, passwords, to when the attempt is made through the email or instant messaging. A lot of times these phishing attacks come in where they say, "Hey, we caught that somebody has tried to go into your bank account several times. We need you to come in here and change your password right away." Never click on that link. Obviously, go straight to the site that you believe that you own the Chase or whatever it is that your banking is, and in their site, if anything, if you feel like it, go ahead and then change your password there. Never fall by clicking there because what you will do is change supposedly your password, and you're really not. You're just giving them your existing password and entering a new password, which they say thank you and say that it's complete. And in fact, they're going right away into your bank and changing your existing password so that you're now locked out. The types of social engineering is phishing, spoofing, shoulder surfing, and tailgating. Anybody know the variance between shoulder surfing, tailgating, spoofing, and phishing?
Yes.
Oh, phishing. Phishing is that he basically sets the bait for many fishes out there. This is one of the key words about phishing. It is an email sent out to make it look legitimate, as I said a moment ago, and it is sent out to a plethora, not targeted to a given area. There is whaling, which is a form of phishing. Anybody know what is whaling?
Getting the biggest target, like the CEO or VP.
Yeah, it's targeting high-end individuals. So you have your fishing, you have your whaling, and there is one more. Anybody know what?
Spearing.
That is correct. Spearing is the fact of going after a targets of individuals. Now you may just go and target maybe 50 people inside a given company. That is what they call spear fishing versus fishing. Fishing, as we know, you're throwing the line, so any fish that's in there. Spear fishing, you are targeting set individuals, so you're only looking for sharks at this moment. in the ocean with a spear in your hand. Versus whaling is that you're going out for the big whales. If anybody knows gaming, a whale is what in gaming?
Oh, you spend too much money on those gotcha.
Yeah, he's the guy with a lot of money, a lot of buku bucks. He's able to buy up everything, and with ease, he is dominating in the game because before anybody can actually play the game and get whatever it is, he has already bought everything. So that's the variances between the three types of fishing. Any questions, doubts? Spoofing is the process of masquerading as another user or device. It is usually done for the purpose of accessing resource to which a hacker should not have access or to get through a security device such as firewall that may be filtering traffic based on IP source addresses. Spoofing takes various forms. You can actually change his or her IP addresses to one that actually belongs to the actual network and is allowed. You could actually spoof MAC addresses. You can spoof username and passwords. You could also spoof an email address to launch once an email-based attacks. You could also spoof sites. Shoulder surfing. Although you're not using any type of boards, it's basically shoulder surfing, means you're actually standing somewhere. You could even be with a binocular with across the street or a telescope just peering over through the window. It doesn't mean that you're right behind them. As long as you can see that screen and you're actually getting the entire username and password or anything that the person is typing, is physically seeing over the person's shoulder. The best defense, obviously, in attack is usually to do a survey of the environment, make sure that either they have some sort of shield to protect their window or sorry, their monitor, so that if in their window behind them is open, maybe putting some blinds, some type of privacy filters is strongly recommended for those individuals with those type of offices. Same thing when inside an office, make sure that the user's PC is not facing the door. In other words, their back is not facing the door. They should be always facing towards there. Tailgating. This term is obviously in the use of actually someone physically uh, getting in right behind you without needing a key. Many social engineering intruders need a physical access, will use this method of gaining. Educate your users to be aware of this and to prevent it. The tailgating is when the user is not aware that the person is coming in. In other words, they opened it. You'll see it a lot in apartment buildings and or any facility that all of a sudden somebody is about to grab the door while you just let it go. You're supposed to, in most of these facilities, make sure that you close the door behind you. That's why man traps have been created. It's not to trap a man, but in fact, it only allows one person at a time to go in, pretend this is a door here on this side. And then as soon as I open this door, the door that's here does not allow me through. Or sometimes you'll see it in the train places, right? Where they have that little circular little thing that only allows one person to go through. As soon as you come in and this door closes, then this door will allow you to open it and actually go into the facility and or data center. Any questions on tailgating? Anyone know who's piggyback?
I think
Yes,
piggyback
Tailgating,
I
is.
do.
tailgating and piggyback are very, very much alike. The variance between tailgating and piggyback is that the user is fully aware that the person is coming in and he goes, "Hey, how you doing? Come on in." Believe it or not, that is called piggyback. You're allowing somebody to come into an area that they shouldn't be coming into. Be that it is, even though that they have an ID, you must force them to scan. That's what the little device is there for. Have them scan, and if it goes then they're allowed to in. Otherwise, challenge. Always challenge them to come into that area. Even though you know the person, God only knows. Some people get fired, and then all of a sudden that person is an outright person and is going to come in and do vicious activities. We need to make sure that whoever is coming in is authorized. Password attacks occur when an account is attacked repeatedly. This is accomplished obviously by using an application known as password crackers. A lot of these are in Linux-based operating systems that allow you to do brute force attacks, dictionary attacks, rainbow tables attacks, and hybrid attacks. questions or doubts. As for your brute force attack, it is basically a password attack that operates attempting every possible combination of characteristics that could be in a password. This can be formed online or offline. Brute force attacks on online will give enough time and enough processing power. Any password can be obviously cracked. So most enterprises use some sort of password policy that locks the account after so many times of you trying to come in and maybe for a given time doesn't allow you. Obviously, that is a good feature and a bad feature because now that I know it's about an hour, I can wait at about an hour to attempt again. Some of them completely lock you out, and then you have to call the help desk to let you in. It kind of just disables your account and locks you out completely. Offline, though, those are the ones where nobody can do anything. Now I have you completely offline. In offline mode, the attacker requires to steal the password file first, but enables an unconstrained guessing of passwords. I no longer am limited to the amount of text if when you're on online. Got you offline, and that's as I stated before. If I have you offline and I physically have your computer at that moment, you are in big trouble. As for dictionary tags, they rely basically on large files that contain words from the actual given dictionary. These attacks are most often attacks to attempt to crack an encrypted password by encrypting each word in the dictionary file using the same algorithm used to encrypt the user's password and then comparing this value to encrypted password to match. These attacks are performed offline and eliminate the disabling of the accounts through password policies. Rainbow table are almost identical, but they're not. These rainbow tables are large table databases that have had every permutation run through as a hashing algorithm. So hash can be looked up and cross-referenced back to the password that's been created. When passwords are stored in an operating system, they're stored in what do you call that word? In cache or inside the system in their hashed format, not in the actual clear text, but it has the hash format. So with that, I can go in since I have you offline and basically have access to the password hash. A rainbow table can be used to find where this matches. At the moment that rainbow table is able to, and now I have a line of code, or sorry, a line of maybe 5 or 6 passwords that I just need to test because it gives me the English or the written format. Hybrid attacks typically uses a combination of dictionary attacks, entries, and brute force. If you know there is a good likelihood that the employees of a particular company are using derivatives of the name of the company, their passwords, then you can seed those values into the values you want to attempt inside your dictionary and or use the brute force itself. As for zombie net and botnet, a bot is a type of malware that installs itself on a large number of computers through infected emails, downloaded websites. Trojan horses install a botnet. You see how it differentiates here? It says a Trojan horse got him in there. But at that point, he is a zombie or a botnet. The Trojan is not the one commanding it, it is actually the zombie or the botnet. Once installed, the bot has ability to connect back to the actual hacker's computer, opening a back door after the hacker server controls all bots located in on any machine. At the same time, the hacker may direct the bots to take some action, as such as mount a DOS attack, direct all machines to send out spam messages. Therefore, they are not the ones sending it; it is you. Perform phishing or any other malicious acts. The collection of computers that act as together is called a botnet, and the individual ones are called zombies, as I stated before. Recruiting many zombies to assist in attack, the attacker greatly magnifies the actual effect, so he can do a denial of service, or DDoS, which is a distributed denial of service. Man in the middle is attacking one, which the hacker uses several techniques to position himself in the middle of the current communication. Example, one way is a hacker might do this by polluting actual ARP caches Everyone know what ARP is, right? Address resolution protocols, mapping the IP address to his MAC address instead of the other person, such as the users on either end session think that they're actually sending data back and forth to each other when in fact they're actually sending it to hacker who actually then adds his little part of his malicious code and starts just agreeing and maybe even filtering and taking the information. As for evil twin is basically different than a rogue AP. An evil twin is the name of a fraudulent wireless access point masquerading as a legitimate WAP or wireless access point. It's obviously to eavesdrop on a Wi-Fi communications without the actual user's knowledge because a lot of these users love the fact to automatically connect when the actual SID is in range. So as soon as it sees that network, hey, I know him. I want to come in here. Here I go. And he walks right into the trap. Evil Twin is one of the most logical ones that a lot of people put, and they basically just park right in front of the facility. They listen in with another program to see what is being broadcasted in the area. And then they basically just go and create the exact same SID to basically fraudulently be in the middle. As for a zero-day attack, it's a vulnerability discovered with the live environments before the fix or the patch exists. Even if the patch exists and you don't do it, you are susceptible to a zero-day attack. It occurs obviously when the security vulnerability in the application is discovered on the same day the application is released and or when the actual payload is released. Monitoring known hacking community websites is often a way to provide early alert because obviously hackers often share the zero-day exploit information. They love that. Honeypots or honey nuts can be used to obviously deter this because then they'll what happens is honeypot is just as the term is basically like if you have Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh loves honey. But one PC is called a honeypot. Basically, he'll look exactly like the web server that the person wants to go and attack. He'll even have files that have the feel and look of legitimate information inside that PC. And in fact, it does not. All those files are useless. And in fact, what it's doing is reporting and or monitoring what this person is doing. The same thing as a honeynet. It is a network of honeypots. New zero-day attacks are announced on a regular basis against a broad range of technology systems. You should create an inventory of applications and maintain a list of critical systems to manage the risks of these attack vectors. Running out of saliva here. Sorry. All right, violations of security best practices. This is where basically we need to train users, have them sign something so that we can fire them later. No, I'm sorry. This is basically where we get and train the users and make sure that they are fully aware of what the acceptable user policy is for this company. In a properly secured organization, obviously security policies should exist and they should define the minimum security measures. AUP describes some detail of the actions and functions that are allowed and what is not allowed. You're not allowed to go to certain sites, for instance. You're not allowed to download anything. You're not allowed to install freeware. You're not allowed to install shareware. All of these are in the AUP. You'll be surprised how many individuals with ease, when they're with HR, sign all this documentation and they're not even fully aware that they just signed off their life. A critical component of AUP is the specifications of the actual consequences for non-compliance. That's why HR is involved when you're signing this. The moment you do it, you can't say you don't know because you signed that. You need to read everything just like anywhere. When they're making you sign, you need to read it. If HR tries to rush you, they could get in trouble for that. They must allow you. Legal will be useless at that point if they do not allow you to read that before you sign it. You need to be aware of what you're signing. Any questions or doubts? All right.